Good evening. Please do continue. We're going to get the program underway. I'm Gene Policinski, Chief Operating Officer of the Newseum Institute. Welcome to the Newseum, to the New York Times Oaks-Sulzberger Family Great Hall, and to this incredible celebration, I think, tonight of excellence in the media. Just one of the ways we at the Newseum and Newseum Institute present, support, and advance the cause of a free press under the First Amendment. The Newseum and the Newseum Institute are dedicated to free expression, to the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment: religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. There will be a test later. In this grand building, in its galleries and exhibits, and through innovative programs and compelling education initiatives, we aim to help our fellow citizens explore, confront, debate, and hopefully agree in consensus ways on the challenges confronting freedom around the world. In that process, we hope to defend those 5 core freedoms, which in so many ways define this nation, our system of self-governance, and the spirit, really, of what it means to be a citizen of the United States. This year marks the blending of 2 of our signature programs: the Al Neuharth Free Spirit and Journalism Conference, which brings 51 rising high school seniors, 1 from each state and the District of Columbia, to the nation's capital for what we hope is an exciting, if exhausting, period of a number of days, a week, exposure to the best journalism and government. And then the Neuharth Award, the Al Neuharth Award for Excellence in the Media, which is our main purpose here tonight. This year's class of 51 Free Spirit Scholars are with us tonight, and if you would, please stand and be recognized. And if you would remain standing, I'd also like to ask the Free Spirit alumni who are here to stand as well. Counting the group of this year's seniors, thank you. Counting this year's group of scholars, there are 1,263 members of the Free Spirit group since the program launched with its first class in 2000. You'll be hearing, of course, more about the Neuharth Award this evening, but to give you a brief first-hand description of this scholars program, we want to welcome 2 Free Spirit alumni to this podium. First, Cyrus Mesabi, a 2005 Free Spirit from Iowa, a filmmaker and a journalist. He attended Columbia University, where he majored in economics and philosophy. He has explored film, anthropology, alternate forms of storytelling on a Fulbright grant. He's combined those interests in Raw Music International and a documentary series about underground music around the world. His documentaries about music and cultural landscape of Iraq, the Ukraine, Burma, Mongolia have been published by NBC News, and his work has also appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Time, Al Jazeera, and Rolling Stone, among a number of others. Cyrus, if you would join us here at the podium. Thank you.
Thanks, Gene, for your intro. I'm Cyrus, as you know. I've been working on a series about underground music around the world for the last 4 years, traveling and telling social, political, economic, cultural stories through music. Music, to me, is a bridge. It's a way that we can communicate with each other. It's a shared art, and it's also a way of humanizing people in places that in other situations might seem too far or foreign from us. Iraq might be a frightening proposition to some people, but if I tell you a story about a Kurdish pop star with an agenda in Iraq, then you're interested, I would hope. The flip side of that, though, as those of you in the documentary industry know, or probably can guess, is that means I'm dead broke, up to my neck in credit, and sleeping on couches most nights. But actually, when the Free Spirit Conference asked me to come and speak here, I was on one of those couches somewhere. And the first thought was like, man, what are the rest of these guys doing? You know, I'm the successful journalist, but I guess that's what this is all about. You know, it's about risk, and it's about uncertainty, and it's about couches. Al Neuharth was certainly not afraid of the risks that being a free spirit entail. He was very candid about his successes, also, and this is something I've only realized later, candid about some of his failures. That's something that over the years I've come to admire and respect about him. As a cocky 18 or 17-year-old being lauded by the giants of your industry for a week straight, you kind of forget that part of the story, but when you take a few hits, you will remember. So I have to thank Mr. Neuharth and the Free Spirit Scholarship Program for encouraging me and hundreds of young journalists to dream, dare, do, fail, do, keep doing. I would also be remiss if in that conversation I didn't talk about the family and friends, the Chicago poet who funded our first trip, the kind people of Kenya, Mongolia, Burma, Ukraine who took care of us when all that dream, daring, doing took us out. It takes a lot of people, and it takes a village to raise a vagrant. So I'd like to end by, I think in Al fashion, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our next project. I think that would be the spirit that he would like to go out on. We're going to Morocco to make a film about underground music, about Islam, about guitars, and we're always looking for production partners. So I'd like to thank the Freedom Forum for having us, and I'm honored to be here to celebrate free-spiritedness, the Free Spirit Scholarship, and especially Al Neuharth. Thank you very much.
Mary Poulin is a 2004 Free Spirit from Oregon, a journalist and an author. She attended New York University, went on to cover business at the Wall Street Journal and sports at the New York Times. She is the author of The Monopolists, a New York Times bestseller from Bloomsbury about the secret history of that board game, Monopoly. And she's working on a second book. I think by her age, I was trying to dress myself with something that might match, so this is amazing. Her work has appeared in The New Yorker, Esquire, Bloomberg Businessweek, Fast Company, Guardian, ESPN, Medium, Smithsonian Magazine, USA Today, and many other places. And she will be at the 2016 Rio Olympics as a TV producer for NBC Sports. Mary?
I'm just like Jennifer Lawrence. Hi. So when I won the Free Spirit Award in 2004 as the representative of Oregon, where's the Oregon representative? Hand? Anybody? Yeah, go Ducks. The attendees were still debating what role, if any, the internet was going to play in the next wave of journalism. Google was not yet a publicly traded company, and George W. Bush was vying for re-election to a second term. And I, at the age of 17, like many of you here, was just freaking out about where to go to college and how on earth I was going to be able to afford it. So much has changed for me in journalism since then. I used my Free Spirit Scholarship to attend New York University. I double majored in politics and journalism. And the Free Spirit experience, the community of people I met in Washington, allowed me to take on several internships as an undergrad, including USA Today, New York Mag. I went to work at the Journal and the Times, and I covered sports and business, two beats that I fell into by accident. And it was very much inspired by the kind of creativity that I experienced here when I was 17. And quite simply, none of that would have been possible without this program. I knew it was crazy then, but now I really, really appreciate how many ripple effects it's had for me. So, as you 2016 Free Spirits will soon discover, the power of the Free Spirit program, and as your paths cross and continue to college and beyond, 17-year-old me who sat here 12 years ago, she had no idea what was ahead. And I was way more worried about my AP exams, and now I'm packing my bags for Rio. I would much rather take an AP exam than figure out what on earth is going to be going on there. And although 2004 feels like it was a century ago, many of Al Neuharth's words still dance around in my mind today, including this phrase about how the difference between a mountain and a molehill is one of perspective. And the good news is, as an Oregonian, I know a lot about mountains, but in the spirit of Al, I tip my hat to all of you who are just starting your climbs. You've made it this far, but remember, it's just a molehill. Thanks.
Thanks, Mary. Well, as many of you know, Al Neuharth called South Dakota the sacred soil. It was his, there we go, it was his native state, and where after military service in World War II, he graduated in 1950 from the University of South Dakota. USD was forever in Al's heart. In 2000, the university and the Freedom Forum dedicated the Al Neuharth Media Center, home to student media at USD, and to South Dakota Public Broadcasting. But well before that, starting in 1989, the first Al Neuharth Award for Excellence in the Media was presented on campus to then former CBS News anchor and managing editor Walter Cronkite. For these many years, we've carried on that annual recognition, now done in Al's name and in his memory. Tonight, we gather here in this magnificent place that is so linked to Al's work and to Al's legacy, to honor the latest among the media greatest, an honoree who joins ranks that ranges from Walter Cronkite to Tom Brokaw, from Larry King, Katie Couric to Charles Kuralt, Lou Bacardi of AP, from Judy Woodruff and Al Hunt to John and John M. Siegenthaler, from Garrison Keillor, Bob Schieffer, and John Quinn to Jim Lehrer, Gwen Eiffel, and Robert McNeil, and there are more. So while this award presentation is taking event here, this presentation event is taking place here, and during the time the Free Spirits are meeting, and we're in Washington at the Newseum, the USD partnership remains every bit as strong. And as a colleague of the Newseum Institute in this unique recognition of excellence in the media. And as such, it's my honor to present the president of the University of South Dakota, James Abbott.
Thank you, Gene. It's great to be here and great to see so many people here to join in this special occasion. It really is a pleasure for me, as on behalf of the students, faculty, and staff of the University of South Dakota, Al Neuharth's alma mater, to welcome each of you to tonight's ceremony in this wonderful Newseum, home of the Freedom Forum as well. I suspect that Al Neuharth would be particularly pleased with this year's recipient of the award given in his name for a couple of reasons. First, because our honoree has certainly excelled in his chosen field of sports broadcasting. And secondly, and I think equally important, perhaps more important, because Al Neuharth learned one of the most valuable lessons of his life from his spectacularly unsuccessful experience at Sodex Sports, a newspaper he and a friend founded in Sioux Falls, South Dakota in 1950, and which promptly failed. Bloodied but not broken, Al went on to become a spectacular success because he was driven to succeed, a trait I think you will conclude from the following video presentation that is shared by tonight's honoree.
It's his baby, this entire company. He has been the face of it. He's very, very proud, the way you would be proud of a child. It's his baby.
Chris Berman was appointment TV before we even knew the phrase appointment TV.
Welcome to the 68th annual NFL selection meeting, commonly known as the draft.
And now it's on to the Super Bowl for the Niners. There he goes. And after 62 years, move over Ty Cobb. There it goes. There's a moon scraper. Back, score! Back it goes. It's over. The Red Sox win, and they're moving on up.
See, the thing is with Boomer, what you get on the air is what you get off the air, around the office or wherever. It's that unabashed love of sports. He's the same guy, whether he's in front of the red light or just hanging out in the newsroom.
And away we go!
See, here I am on the road again. There I am up on the stage.
When the stars come out, ESPN is in your face.
I'm trying to do an audition here for NFL Sunday Countdown.
Well,
to be a star like Chris Berman.
A star? Chris Berman works for that place run by a mouse.
And for Philadelphia again, get out of here.
The Kansas City... Well, I'd like to stay and watch it. Wait a minute, I got to get out of here. My plane leaves for spring training. Can you finish this up?
Obviously, the wind is throwing a monkey wrench into, if it's like this, we'll throw it. We have this to keep our papers down.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Swami.
Pretty good hand, Schwam.
Most times you can't hear them talk. Other times you can.
Offense sells tickets.
Defense
wins championships. No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Chris, can we get on with it?
Okay. Here I am on the road again. There I am up on the stage.
He is the best highlight man ever. There's no one who can do it the way Boom does it.
Antoine Randall between defenders, and he could go all the way. Rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, touchdown. Watch front of the goalpost, the Jags mascot. Graham. Howdy, ho. Chris Calloway, there they go. Greg Crockett, king of the wild frontier. Santana Johnson, Oye Kamova. Eric Sleeping with the enemy. Vincent Ultimate Frisbee. Ben Wintercoat.
First nickname on air was my first year here, which was our first baseball season here in 1980. It was either John Bayberry RFD or Frank Tanana-Daiquiri.
Julio, won't you let me take you on a sea cruise? Roberto, remember the Alomar. John, holy Moses. Mark Carrion, My Wayward Son. Todd, Good Housekeeping Gilles. Jeff Ballard of A Thin Man. And thank goodness for Bert B. Home Bly 11.
I'm disappointed I didn't get some sort of a fancy nickname out of you.
When you were governor of Massachusetts, the Patriots won 2 Super Bowls. You grew up in Michigan. The Lions are better. Do you have a favorite team? What's the one personal quality you want them to think about?
I want them to think he could go all the way to the White House.
The Swami has disappointed so many people that I'm not sure that I can pardon him.
The Washington Redskins staved off the San Francisco 49ers 24-21. They're going to the Super Bowl for the 2nd straight year.
Here I am on the road again. There I am up on the stage. Here I am.
You know that there are a couple goals that you have in mind for 1980.
I mean, I have to ask, are you mad, bro? Huh?
Let your mind wander back in time. Back. You can say it.
I'm more like the Stu Grimson of the Shy Skate. One shift. You know what? One for the road.
One for the road.
Let's go. Let's have some fun.
This happens when I hear Boomer. He's the original.
And let it be said that number 8, Cal Ripken Jr., has reached the unreachable star.
Good evening. I'm Jan Neuharth, the chair and CEO of the Freedom Forum, and I have the pleasure of introducing Chris Berman tonight. But where does one begin to introduce a legend? Someone who has dominated sports broadcasting for more than a generation, who has won more awards than most of the athletes he covers, and who has been on movie screens 14 times as himself. You could start by identifying Chris somewhat in the manner to which he is accustomed. I learned at lunch today that Chris is known as the Mayor of Maui. But we also came up with some of our own titles. Consider the Swami of Salutations, or the Wizard of the Walk of fame in Hollywood, or perhaps the Exceptional Elocutionist of ESPN, or even the Sultan of Silence. That last one is in reference to that Cal Ripken moment you just saw in the video. Chris was widely praised for his on-air modesty and sense of history that led him not to speak during the long celebration after Baltimore Orioles star Cal Ripken Jr. reached that milestone, 2,131 consecutive games. Is there a higher moment for someone whose career is rooted in the spoken word than to know when not to speak? When the game reached official status at its midpoint and the crowd began to roar its appreciation of Ripken's accomplishment, Chris simply commented, "Let it be said that number 8, Cal Ripken Jr., has reached the unreachable star." And then it would be another 19 minutes before he said, as the Orioles took the field, "A moment that will live for 2,131 years. We will never see anything like this again." The same might be said of Chris Berman. Will we ever see the likes of him again? As a studio host, anchor, and commentator, Berman is known for balancing in-depth reporting with humor and enthusiasm over a more than 3-decade run as the personality and personification of the sports broadcasting giant, ESPN. "Sports should be fun," he once said, "and I want viewers to share in the enjoyment that I get from the game. But I also owe it to those same viewers to be thoroughly prepared, to know what I'm talking about or not talking about." Chris's trademark combination of enthusiasm, knowledge, and wit is evident in the nicknames he gives sports heroes. You saw a sampling of those in the video. Also among the more than 1,000 monikers he has coined are several that reflect his love of music, including Andre, "Bad Moon Risin', and Steve, "I've Got You, Babe" Bono. Speaking of music, Chris, a longtime aficionado of rock and roll, has appeared on stage singing with Huey Lewis and the News and Eddie Money, and was joined by Glenn Frey of the Eagles for a special Hotel California Super Bowl edition of The Swami. Not just the voice of ESPN, but the crooner too. And then there are those awards I referred to earlier. On May 24th, 2010, Chris Berman was honored by the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame as a tribute for his more than 30 years contributing to the sports television industry. Chris Berman has been selected as National Sportscaster of the Year 6 times by the members of the National Sportscasters and Sports Writers Association. Chris and his shows have won 10 Emmys and 12 Cable Aces. In 1995, 96, and 97, he was named Sportscaster of the Year in the Studio Host category by the American Sportscasters Association. In 2010, he received the distinguished Pete Rozelle Radio Television Award from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In 1987, 88, and 90, the Cable Guide readers voted him Best Cable Sportscaster. Chris Berman was listed among the Sporting News Top 100 Most Powerful People in Sports in 1995 and 2005. And just last evening, the National Sports Media Association inducted Chris into its Hall of Fame. Tonight, we add yet another honor to that long list, one that has particular resonance given Al Neuharth's lifelong passion for sports. Sports journalism had a significant impact on Al's career, from his first newspaper venture, Sodak Sports, which, as Jim pointed out, was a failure, but which Al credited with teaching him important life lessons, to his last news startup, USA Today. anchored throughout its early years with a sports section rated as second to none. And now, for the first time, this award for media excellence that bears Al's name will honor a sports journalist, and there is no more deserving recipient than Chris Berman. That is evidenced by a letter we received today from the senior senator from Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal, who, by the way, stopped by to pay his respects to Chris at the reception. I'd like to share just a few lines from that letter with you. Senator Blumenthal writes, "Dear Chris, after over 3 decades of your industry-leading sports journalism, I'm not surprised to see you join the legendary ranks of Cronkite, Brokaw, and Russert for this honor. While many know you for your enthusiasm and outsized personality as the host of Sunday NFL Countdown, NFL Primetime, and Baseball Tonight, I am proud to know you both as a constituent and a friend with a deep commitment to social causes." Yet another fitting tribute to a legend. Al and Chris shared not only an unabashed love of sports, but a commitment to excellence in reporting on it, and that showed in their respective careers. While differing in medium, each made an early commitment to getting it right, with feeling, and each delivered. In an era in which everyone with a cell phone or a tablet or variations on those devices thinks of themselves as a publisher or broadcaster, it is quality, credibility, honesty, and the joy of reporting the news that are future keys to success for all of us who love news, and for someone with so remarkable a career already in the record books of sports journalism. Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the 2016 Al Neuharth Award for Excellence in the Media, and a modern-day example of the best of journalism in any era, Chris Berman.
That was really too kind, Jan. You got my check, thank you. The whole evening is already been amazing. And thanks for making me feel like a yote, you know, an honorary yote, right? So, right? I know we have South Dakota here. Gene, I'm gonna try this now. Public Policinski. I mean, it's okay. I mean, we're in Washington. From the phone calls from a couple of years ago to these last 6 months to the tour today, and just being a good guy. Thank you very much for making me and my whole group very welcome today. Thank you. And this is easy, Jim Hay Abbott. I mean, that's very easy. I'm glad you could be with us tonight. Thank you for your kind words. We'll see you up at your school here this coming year. So Jan, your dad, I'd like to give thanks to him, although needless to say, it's posthumously. But he will never be in absentia, will he? I wish I knew him, because obviously he was quite a pistol, right? I felt like I did, though, through the years of reading the paper and his columns. And like I say, I'm now an official fan of the Yotes, so I'm one of you guys. Thank you. You know, I looked at the previous, that Gene mentioned, some of the previous winners of this award, and the names: Walter Cronkite, Tom Brokaw, Charles Kuralt, Larry King, Tim Russert. There's only one conclusion I can draw. I must be in the wrong room. I gotta go. Wow. Yeah, I'm a child, as you said, of the 60s and 70s, which means I feel I'm enlightened. I feel I'm a free spirit. I feel I am one, but we have so many free spirits. I want you guys all to stand one more time. I had a blast with you today. So give these young ladies and gentlemen, past and present, The whole room is free spirit. I mean, it's just, how can you not like the place? And what a week you guys are having. So back to those of us of the 60s and the 70s. We know we listen to the best music. There is no argument. I like to have conversations with people and look them in the eye. Heaven forbid that comes from us old timers. I also subscribe to 3 newspapers a day. One of them is USA Today. As soon as home delivery was possible in Cheshire, Connecticut, we got it. True. I mean, you can come to the mailbox and check it out. I live part-time in Maui. The paper first came a day late out there, so we lovingly call it USA Yesterday. But now we move forward. It comes in a boiled-down version, Hawaiian version, 2 sections. But it's fine. We're very busy over there. We don't have a lot of time. I read it every day. It's great. A newspaper for the whole country in 1982, that's a crazy idea. ESPN, an all-sports cable TV station in 1979, that's a crazy idea. Why were both ideas wild, successful home runs? Well, hard work, damn the torpedoes attitude, and having a blast doing it every day. If you can do those 3 things and the fortunes are with you, they're going to work. The country was shrinking more and more, and I obviously don't mean we got out our rulers. Every decade was getting smaller. We were traveling. We wanted our hometown paper. We wanted our hometown sports station as we traveled around in our hotel rooms. So here's USA Today, and here's ESPN. The outside circumstances helped us, but we're connected at the hip somewhat. I really do believe that, and I'm glad that we are. I majored in American history at Brown, not communications, not journalism. Gene, now you know why I really wanted that tour, so thank you. I mean, the Berlin Wall is right over there. I mean, that's just kind of hard. That's just hard to believe. I wanted to be a sportscaster, but I thought majoring in American history, I should know who Abe Lincoln was. And do not take him off the $5 bill. Please leave him right there here in Washington. Abe's our guy. I thought I should know some more about Roger Sherman. Here comes the education part of the night. Thank you to Senator Blumenthal for the letter and him coming tonight. He's been a family friend for a long time. My dad knew him for a long time. Roger Sherman, now who is that? Well, he's the only man to sign the 4 most significant documents in the history of the United States. 2 you may not know about. One is the Articles of Association. You might have heard of the Articles of Confederation. You definitely heard of the Declaration of Independence, and you've definitely heard of the United States Constitution. Roger Sherman was the only one to sign all 4. He's from my home state of Connecticut, and he is why, right down the road here, Capitol Hill, that the 2 branches of the legislature are the way they are. House of Representatives set up by population, the Senate 2 per state. It's called the Connecticut Compromise. He authored it. I'm in Washington. Where else could I use this information but to deliver it to you? 2 years after Brown, at age 24, I was hired by ESPN in its first month. We began September 7, 1979. I started October 1st. I know the free spirits were certainly free. They weren't even spirits yet. I know that's a long time ago. I did the overnight 3 a.m. show for $16,500. 30 minutes of sports news, which is as long as Walter Cronkite actually had on the nightly news, which was really mind-boggling. So who's going to watch that, 30 minutes of sports news? Who's going to watch the NFL draft on a Tuesday morning at 8 a.m.? Who's going to watch Australian rules football? You know, the ref has the hat and they do that and we don't know what the hell they're doing. Who's going to watch the America's Cup boat race at 4 a.m. out of the Indian Ocean? I mean, who's going to watch this stuff? My dad asked me only once, so what if this doesn't work? Do you think you want to back it up? Do you think you want to back it up a little bit with maybe a grad school degree? I told him I needed to give this career a shot, and he told me one thing: make sure you're great at it. So I took that advice and I ran with it. We wondered. Some early day stories. I tell them several times, but these are true. So in the early days, the first couple of months, we didn't even have our control room done. We had to have wires come out of the studio back into the back of the building, outside, and we had a truck like you see at a football game, the wires going in there. A skunk, it was like late October, Halloween-ish. A skunk came in the studio, did what skunks do, they let fly, and left. So, look, in South Dakota you have skunks, right? So, if a skunk gets in your garage, and you open the window and you open the door, how long does it take the smell to get out? It doesn't go anywhere, right? Like 3 weeks, it doesn't go anywhere. We were like gagging for 3 weeks doing sports centers. It's pretty interesting. So the one I like to tell the most that shows how far we've come is we used to have college football on tape. We weren't allowed to do it live. We had a game that was played on Saturday, and a Sunday night, a Monday night, a Tuesday, let's say a Thursday and a Friday. So Friday night, the game was played 6 days before. It's not like the outcome was really in doubt, but this is when we showed the thing, okay? So I'm the only guy there, and I always go with these two teams because I don't know what the game was, but it was like Heidelberg against Muhlenberg or something like that. And the call comes up from the tape room saying, we got big, Ray, what's up? Oh my God, we have big trouble down here. What is it? What is the matter? Oh, is there a fire? No, worse. What do you mean worse? Everybody okay? Yeah. What happened? Well, we went from the first reel of the game, and then we put on a few commercials, which back in 1979, we were talking about some of the other ones at the table. What did we come up with? I knew Ginzu knives. What was the one with the pool tips? Nobody remembers those, right? We had pool tips, we had Ginzu knives, we had Amazoy Zoysia lawn care, and then we had a public service announcement from Gregory Peck. Please turn out the lights. And then he goes, okay, that's fine. We went from reel 1 to reel 6. So how long's this been on? Oh, about 20 minutes. What are you doing? I don't know, but we need you to say something. So, okay. So I said something, I got on camera, I said something about Rip Van Winkle, you didn't fall asleep. So even though, but now we'd like to return to action in the first quarter. So even though you know and I know and everybody knows, the score was Heidelberg 35, Muhlenberg 32. We now return to the first quarter with the score Heidelberg 3, Muhlenberg nothing. Enjoy the game. We missed 10 touchdowns. It was a technicality. This did happen. We talked about this last night too, and I don't talk about it very much, but I announced a lot of things, but the most interesting was darts. That's right, you can laugh. Don't be, I mean, come on, I was barely older than the Free Spirits. And so I announced darts, and you know, I didn't know much about it, but I did have a color man. We did a videotape replay so that you could comment on the follow through and the throw, and hey, that really landed in the bullseye, you know, and they said, go watch this one guy. You're not going to do a match till the final 8. Go watch this one guy, an Irishman. I can't remember his name. You know, Sean O'Grady. I always come up with that name. He was a fighter, actually, but I go with it anyway. And I watched him, and it was 9 o'clock, and he took a couple of shots. One hit a chandelier, one hit a curtain. He said, this guy's going to win the thing? I mean, come on. And then he reached down here, took out a very tall glass, poured in some dark liquid, very dark, fired it down. For us old folks like Sanford, you know, Fred Sanford, he kind of backed up a little bit. And then his next 3 were bullseye, bullseye, bullseye. And I said, now this guy is he's a great athlete. I mean, there's just no question about it. So I did darts and I did these things, so we heard, you know, Cyrus and you guys speaking about, what, you know, here are our projects. You just have to have belief it's going to work. And our early bosses were Chet Simmons and Scotty Connell. They encourage us to reach the sky. If we got burnt, be smart enough to pull your hand down. just for a little bit, let it cool off, and then go reach again. And if you don't get burnt, just keep reaching. And that's kind of what they told us. You know, there were those who wondered if I wasn't a little different at 3 a.m., and I know Chet Simmons said, leave him alone, just leave him alone. So I owed him a huge debt. We were the Mercury astronauts, what we were. You know, we kind of circled and then landed in the ocean, and they picked us up in a helicopter. That's about what we were doing. I don't know who was John Glenn. I personally liked Alan Shepard because when he was an Apollo astronaut, he put a 6-iron and somehow snuck it into the capsule and hit a 6-iron on the moon. That's my guy, the late Alan Shepard. 1987, ESPN got the NFL. We were here to stay. We had landed on the moon. Our Steve Bornstein and NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle came up with an idea for a new show, an hour of wall-to-wall highlights called NFL Primetime, Sunday night after the game, never attempted. Steve told the commissioner, we're going to throw the ball, and I got the guy to throw it. And that would be me, and thank God he liked me. Tom Jackson and I did this show for 19 years. You saw some of it. That tape was great. Thank you, Seth, and thank you, Greg and Barry and Absentia. Tape was great. It remains the highest-rated cable TV show of all time for sports. It's a record that won't be broken, kind of like Ripken's. The viewership has changed. It'll never be broken. We're proud of that. But what I like the most about that show, or receiving letters like, I don't have a great relationship with my father, but 1 hour every Sunday night, we sit and watch NFL Primetime and watch football together, and it helped me recapture a relationship with my dad. It's a pretty heavy letter. I got it many times. I don't know much about football, and it's not always from females either, but hey, I watch with my boyfriend. I like the game now. Thank you very much. Other than the military, and mostly the older ones who would write me if I said something about Pearl Harbor Day or Memorial Day, those are the best letters we got. Because in our business, if you can connect people by doing what you're doing and making people feel that we're all a part of it, that we're a gathering place, that we're really in a seat in your living room, not in this box, then we've done our job. And so that, I really like that. By the way, Tommy and I have been together 29 years. Johnny Carson, Ed McMahon, 31. So we're getting there. Under Steve Bornstein, we went from the moon to Mars. Under my dear friend George Bodenheimer, who's accompanied us on this little victory lap. Thanks again for coming, George. Under George, who was our president for over a decade, we went from the far reaches to the solar system. I can't thank you enough for coming. Now, by the way, since you are the expert on the solar system, George agrees with me. A year ago, they wanted to make Pluto a non-planet. George has been to Pluto, and you and I agree it's a planet, right? We're going to go with it. And now under John Skipper, we're on to new galaxies. It's a brave new world. Ever since I was young, in addition to the daily papers, we had the 3 best weekly publications in our house: Time, Life, Sports Illustrated. My mom was a researcher for 30 years for Time Incorporated. She would float in different sections of what they called the back of the book in Time magazine. If there was a big story in medicine that was the cover, then they needed a second researcher for medicine, and she would do that. One week she had sports, or in Time they call it sport. I was at college. She called me. I said, Chris, I need some help here. The Minnesota Vikings, a very good defense. I don't know how to look that up. It doesn't, there's no number, there's no anything. And I said, yeah, they are, Mom. And I learned right then and there, get your facts straight before you go forward with a story. Tonight, I am wearing the suit that I wore at her memorial about 18 months ago. I thought it was proper. So she and Dad would be very proud of me tonight. My wife, Kathy, I know is proud of me tonight. She doesn't travel great sometimes, so she's not here, and she supported me the whole ride, so I love them all. The Al Neuharth Award for Excellence in Media is really about journalism, isn't it? I mean, that's where we're going here. It's about getting it right. And in sports, we may not be often covering a war, thank goodness, or a national crisis very often. But still, our job is the same as a news job. The other names on this award, Gene, to get it right, to be accurate, to communicate it to you, the viewers or the readers, in a way that you're very clear what happened, how it happened, and then we go over this today, free spirits, what happened, right? Tell me what happened, right? Just let me understand that. Hard news sports, getting it right. I'm the first sportscaster to receive this honor. A producer told me a long time ago, I'm sick and tired of making you look good. Well, so with that in mind, I accept this award tonight on all of those who have worked or are working at ESPN, because you've all made me look good in many, many, many ways. I'd like to mention one name. I think it's important that I do it. I'd like to mention Bob Lee, another 1979 original like me. He, more than anyone else of all of us over 4 decades, represents getting it right. We were together in Candlestick Park for the earthquake with the World Series 1989. What our crew did that evening was as amazing a moment as we've ever had on our air. ABC got a lot of credit, but they were knocked off the air like everybody else. ESPN were a little late to the party, so we had to rent a generator. We were geniuses by being late. We had a generator. We were on for 3 hours, and Bob was unbelievable. So I certainly share that award with him tonight. I'd like to. He's not here. He's in France. He's at the soccer. Give him a round of applause. I really respect him. Journalism, it's about trust. Trust by your audience, trust from those you cover, such a huge part of sports. I'd like to think that that's part of this honor tonight. At Super Bowl 24, there was a bogus story that came out about Joe Montana in the middle of the week. He was really hurt by it. I was very close with the 49ers. I understand it. He shut down all interviews except for one. He agreed to interview with me. I did ask him all the necessary questions. And after that was done, I looked him in the eye and I said, Joe, take a breath, relax. Now we're going to talk about football. And we talked for about 10 or 15 more minutes, and I could see in his eye that he was going to be fine. San Francisco 55, Denver 10. The 1992 draft, courtesy of the then Bills GM Bill Polian. Inside information was scarce in those days. You know, we didn't have phones, and we didn't have the cell phones and a lot of things, so not a lot of stuff got out. I had the Bills pick, like I always do, courtesy of Bill. They were on the clock. First we went to commercial, then we had a piece, then we went to a reporter. They're down to like 3 minutes. I see the card go up. I go, you know, I curse under my breath. I go, really? I've had this, and now we're not even to me as the host of the draft. Then I see the card go back, which was unheard of at the table, like as if they made a trade or something. And then I got on, and I said something, and I said, you know, I'm going to guess that it's Illinois defensive back Henry Jones. I think they could use some help there. As soon as I said it, the card went up, and it was Henry Jones. A day later, I found out what happened. Bill wanted to make me look good. He held the pick up till I gave it. That was pretty cool. That's the trust that we're talking about. Sometimes journalism is about being smart, being aware of the big picture. You saw some of it here, September 6, 1995, magical, when Cal Ripken passed Lou Gehrig. 14 and a half years of packing a lunch and going to work and never calling in sick. As was mentioned, Jan did right up the road here in Baltimore. Buck Martinez and I were probably crying too much to do it, but we were quiet for 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 minutes. Let the pictures and the sounds that we were seeing come to you. We didn't need to get in the way at all. The truth is, it was the only way we know how to do it. Now, we get paid to speak in our business. We won an Emmy for saying nothing. There's a message in there somewhere, I think. President Clinton was in the booth. You saw he asked for a nickname. See, that night I looked up in the left field lights and there was a sharpshooter. I looked up in the right field lights, there was another sharpshooter. I figured it would be pretty smart. Don't try a nickname he doesn't like. This is going to be real trouble. Sometimes you need your imagination. In the 1989 U.S. Open, Oak Hill, Rochester, the first round, the second rounds weren't on, the morning rounds weren't on. There were 4 holes in one at the 6th hole within a 2-hour span in the morning. No video, none. No, you couldn't bring a little mini camera, there was none. Well, there's our story for the day. We need a 5-minute story on 4 holes in one. How are you going to do this with no video? So now it is TV. So now we had to think. All right, we interviewed the 4 guys. We went out to the tee. You know, I did a stand up there. Here I am on the tee, blah, blah, blah. We went down to the hole. Here it is. It landed and it went in over here, blah, blah, blah. But as we were walking around, I noticed a historical plaque. It had the British trailing the French in the French and Indian War in the late 1600s. And I went, here it is. I'm going to use this. So I did the whole deal with the piece next to the plaque, saying, you know, in 1689, General Wolfe was pursuing General Montcalm in the French and Indian War. And they each paused at this spot, at this very spot, and they said, boy, this would be a good place to put a par 3. And who knew that 400 years later we'd have more history? I mean, it's just unbelievable. I knew I was right when the next day, Dave Anderson, one of the great sports writers of all time, quoted the same plaque in his story. I mean, you had to come up with something, right? All right, in 1995, Jumbo Ozaki from Japan was leading the U.S. Open at Shinnecock halfway. We got to interview Jumbo Ozaki, he's the leader. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, you got to interview him. Well, how am I going to do that? He doesn't speak any English. It's 1995. We don't have translators. We got to interview him. So here I am with Jumbo Ozaki. And they found a translator. The interview went something like this. Well, Jumbo, you shot I'm making up some of this here, a 65 today, but you drove the ball longer than anybody else. How did you do it? Well, he said he felt strong. He got up today, he felt strong and hit the ball great. Well, Jumbo, every putt you made seemed to go in. Was it like a big manhole cover out there? He said he felt good with putter and the ball rolled great. Third question. Jumbo, what would it mean to you to win the U.S. Open? He goes, oh. I grabbed the mic and I went, an answer that needs no translation. Your second round leader, Jumbo Ozaki, back to you. I didn't know how else to do it. Sometimes you just need to think on your feet. What I've learned along the way is that sports is a melting pot. It's like the history of the United States. It's like Ellis Island. You know, we all come from somewhere. Men and women, old and young, white, black, rich, poor. Name any distinction you want, but there is none when it comes to sports. We can have the same conversation about last night's game. It doesn't matter who you are. We're all equal when we talk about a game. And to me, I didn't get into this business knowing that. But where else can you find that, really? Especially in this time, which are not the best times. But if sports brings people together, perfect strangers, then we're in the right business, at least I am. It's more than just sports, even if it just brings us together for a short amount of time. You know, I do tell this story all the time because it's also true. I have so many other funny ones, but you know, you want to be here all night or not? I interviewed George Halas, who pretty much invented football, or if he didn't invent it, he was there when it was invented, the Papa Bear. And I asked him, I'm a young kid, early 80s. Mr. Hallis, who's the greatest running back you ever saw? And he went, well, son, that would be Red Grange. Well, Red Grange played in the 20s. He was very famous, the Galloping Ghost. But I said, really, Red Grange? Yeah, it's Red Grange. I'm sure of it. Well, wait a minute. Now, you've coached against Jim Brown. You've coached Gale Sayers. You have Walter Payton playing for you now. There are certainly others. You have Bronco Nagurski. You have many others. What are you sure? Yeah, it's Red Grange. Well, if he was playing today, how many yards do you think he would make? And he said, well, about 800 yards. And now I don't know what to do. I'm a young guy, you know, I'm a free spirit, but it's George Hallis, okay? And I said, I halted and then I did it. I said, Mr. Hallis, you know, Jim Brown gained 1,800 yards in a season. Dickerson hadn't done it yet. O.J. Simpson, with his ugly ass Bruno Molly's, gained 2,000 yards. Sorry about that, but it is on again. There are other guys that have gained 1,700 yards. 800 yards is good, it's not great. And he sat up, he looked at me, son, you got to remember something. Red Grange is 75 years old, you know? So he pulled my chain, you know? This is what we get. So I've been lucky enough to do what I love. I mean, we can visit, and I got a lot of funny stories, but we don't want to be here all night. I know I'm part of a small percentage of people that do what they love. I know I'm very lucky to do it, and I hope that every one of you young folk in here are able to do what you love, or at least give it a shot. Grab it for all the gusto that you can, and because you'll never forgive yourself later in life if you don't go for it. Now, there are things as we move on in life that you got, you know, life makes us make decisions, and sometimes we all can't hang on till we get to where we really want to go. But you'll wonder later in life, boy, if only I had hung for a couple more years, maybe it would have. You want to know you gave it your best shot, whether it works or whether it doesn't work. That's an advice from an older guy to a younger guy and younger lady. Just hang in there. If you're good at it, I think it's going to happen. And be true to yourself, and don't ask questions at 30 years old and wonder if. You know, I've been in the business, next May will be 40 years, which is a long time. It's not Vince Scully long, but it's long. And I say this to my guys at the table. I was underpaid for 20 years. I've been overpaid for 20 years. So this May, we'll have to figure out what we're going to do next. But like all the others, if this is to be the last year, like you see me, and we'll see, I have no idea. I promise to do it the way I did the year I came in. And that would be with passion, that would be with genuine excitement, and that would be trying to get it right. And if you do that in whatever you do, I like your chances. I'm touched beyond belief tonight. I don't know what I'm doing on this list, but I know this is heavy, but I'm getting it out of here. So I thank you all very much. It's great to be at the Newseum and great to be at Yote. Look at the beams around the back. Do I got to hold it now? Is it heavy? Stanley Cup and this are about the same thing. Come on, Jeff. Thank you for those words. She's quick.
Yeah, she's very quick. All right.
Should I hold it over your head? Yeah. I could skate around.
There we go. Hey!
No, it's yours.
It'll go. I'll get it in a minute. Thank you.
Chris, thanks so much for that wonderful talk. It falls to me now to conclude the ceremonies. I'd like to thank first my colleague Pam Galloway-Tabb and her entire staff for this wonderful dinner. I'd also like to thank my colleague Gene Policinski, who has done so much not only to organize tonight's event, but to arrange the entire program for the Free Spirits. Please thank Gene for all his good work. Most of the time at the Newseum, we talk about the right of expression, the right to say what you want. Tonight, by joining the Al Neuharth Award and the Free Spirits, we focus on the quality of expression. And one of the things I hope that Free Spirits will take from this evening is that the winners of the Al Neuharth Award, including Cronkite, Russet, and Berman, have done so much to enhance our conversation, inform us, delight us, and they really are models. And we hope that the Free Spirits will emulate them, study them, and someday succeed them in informing our nation about the critical issues of the day and all that is going on in our society. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Congratulate Chris. Thank you for your support of the Newseum.